Let me just say for the record that The Nun, Annabelle, Conjuring, it. None of those movies come even close to Hereditary. I just got done watching Hereditary. And I have to say, I've never been more scared in my entire life watching a movie. I'm trying to find the words to describe this movie because it is honestly nothing like I've ever seen in my life before. Now, firstly, let me just say that one of the only Ari Aster movies I've ever seen in my life was Midsommar. And while that movie was weird, I thought it was okay. But I underestimated Hereditary, that's all I could say. Because this is honestly the scariest movie I've ever seen in my entire life. This movie is like if Stanley Kubrick was still alive and he was still making movies. That's what this movie is like. First off, I just want to say that the camera work was absolutely amazing. Honestly, like the camera work. All right, so first off, I want to point out that I think Toni Collette, the main actress for Annie, was absolutely incredible. She was what made this movie terrifying. Honestly, like she was perfect. Like if she was put as the main villain, well, she kind of was the main villain. At least that's what I think. She would have been horrifying. She's honestly like an amazing actor, and I'll be angry if she didn't receive an Oscar or was at least not nominated for one. Now, first thing I want to say, or the second thing I want to say, is I think death was the main villain of this movie. To me, I think this movie represents grief and not being able to overcome it, not being able to move on, and always blaming yourself for it. Firstly, I can't imagine the guilt of knowing that you're responsible for killing. I'm looking around my room because I'm horrified right now. I can't imagine the grief and the guilt of knowing that you're responsible for the death of a loved one. This movie is not a movie that has jump scares for the sake of having them, or I'm speechless. I'm honestly this is right after I watched the movie. I took a shower because I just wanted to get everything in. I just wanted to soak everything in. I decided to make a review. Sorry if you hear a bzzz in the background. That's just my fan, because I don't want to sleep with no noise. Where do I begin? First off, I don't know why I keep saying first off. Excuse how I'm acting in this video. I'm just speechless. Speechless. Keep in mind, this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Honestly, it's so incredible. Now, at first, I kind of thought that this movie was going to go into a direction where Annie would start to blame Peter for the death of Charlie, and that in the end she would try to kill him because it was pretty much his fault what happened to Charlie. Now, let me just say, at first I thought like when Annie went to Joanne's house, and they started conjuring the spirits, I was like, oh no, it's gonna be one of those movies where they talk to demons and spirits. But let me say, this movie did that. It did Possession so much better than Conjuring ever could. This movie is honestly better than Conjuring. I love the Conjuring series, but this movie was just way, way more scarier. This whole movie feels like a nightmare come to life. Like, in particularly that nightmare scene where Annie walks into Peter's room and he's all covered in ants. First of all, I think the ants represent the grief. You know, because there's a lot of ants and bugs. I think the ants and the flies represent, you know, like, that lingering, flying thought around you that, oh, it's my fault. I could have prevented it. Which is normal to think that it was your fault. But, yeah, I think that all the insects, the ants mostly, represent the grief of Charlie's death, and how Annie thinks it's her fault because Peter was like, she didn't want to go to the party, but you told her to go, which comes to the dinner scene, where they're all sitting, and then Annie just goes ballistic, and she starts yelling at Peter. That was a very saddening scene. I almost cried at that scene, honestly, because just the look on Peter's face was so... It's a face that I can't describe. But anyways, where was I? Honestly, the fact that, speaking of Joanne, the fact that Joanne was in the photo albums that whole time, I think maybe Joanne was most likely behind all this, because, you know, she appeared in Peter's vision, and I don't understand the ending. I honestly can't understand it. Something to do with maybe demons and Charlie being Paoman, I think that's what it was called, one of the demons of hell, or one of the kings of hell. And I think Peter was supposed to be one of the kings of hell as well, because he was wearing a crown. Maybe he was the most important one. But yeah. One of the things I want to say, I want to applaud this movie for, is that it doesn't rely on jump scares and, like, screams and, like, scary, gory imagery, or, like, the build-up violin sounds. This movie relies on, like, silence, and it relies on, like, pure... What is it called? It relies on just, like... It relies on just, like... The suspense, that's what I'm trying to say. The suspense of it all. And how, like, you don't know what's going to come up. I don't know what the dead bodies really represent at the end of the movie. Steve, when the book gets thrown into the fire, and instead of Annie getting caught on fire, he gets caught on fire. I don't know what that's supposed to represent. I'm trying to think of something. Maybe it represents that. Maybe because he was the one that didn't believe. Maybe because he was the one that... I don't know, man. Only Ari Aster knows. And I think it's best that we don't know. Because that's one of the greatest parts about a horror movie, is the mystery. I don't know if I'll be sleeping tonight, because I'm very scared. That movie scared me. But I did enjoy it. It's probably the scariest and the best horror movie I've ever seen in my life, honestly. It's so close to a perfect horror movie. So close. Yeah. Honestly, this movie is a 5 out of 5. Like, seriously, 5 out of 5. When they tell you that it's scarier than The Exorcist, they mean it. It's scarier than The Exorcist. Yeah. that's my unprofessional review of Hereditary. The next review I plan on doing is of a proper review of It 2017, like the remake. But yeah, that's my review of Hereditary. Overall, it was like probably one of the greatest horror movies I've ever seen. One of the greatest movies I've ever seen. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for my next video. I will be much more stable in my next video, hopefully. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.